Hello, history fans. A real quick update on the Battle of Agincourt. The Battle of Agincourt is part of the Hundred Years' War, and this battle takes place on October 25th, 1415, actually kind of near the end of the Hundred Years' War. And it goes down in history as a spectacular victory for the English. Now, what's going on here? Well, in the Hundred Years' War, there is a dispute over who is the rightful king of France. English kings, because of their Norman ancestry, believe that they are the rightful kings of France, and the citizens of France and the nobility of France don't think that they are the rightful kings of France. So the dispute is going to be settled through warfare. And so Henry V leads a force into France, an amphibious assault force, and lands near Harfleur. And after some time, he manages to lay siege to the city of Harfleur, and he takes the city. And then he realizes he has a decision to make because cold weather is beginning to settle in, and it may be time to do what armies in these regions always do when it's cold out, or typically do, and that is simply go indoors and try to stay warm and resume fighting in the spring. But Henry has put a lot of money into this expedition, and he wants more to show for it than just one city for all the trouble that he went to, and the number of troops that he moved into France and so on. So he decides to continue a campaign marching through this region of France, as you see in this map, if nothing else, to show that he is the undisputed master of that region of France, and that no amount of French resistance is going to be able to remove him. So as he continues on this campaign, he meets intermittent resistance from the French, and but still continues. And the tipping point is at a spot at Agincourt, where the French hope to finally block and stop Henry and trap his army and destroy it. They want to do that before he gets to Calais. Calais is in France, but it is an English stronghold in France. So if Henry can make it to Calais, he can safely make it back home to England. And the French, of course, want to stop that, and they want to show that they are the masters of their territory and not some invading English king. And so this crisis comes to a boiling point here at this field near the French city of Agincourt. Now, before the battle, the night before, the English are setting up, the French are setting up, and French knights, members of the French nobility, are pushing their way to the front of the battle line. They want to be the first in the charge across this open field, partly for the greater glory should they survive the battle, and also partly because if you can capture an English knight, you can hold him hostage and get a ransom for him. And the higher up the ladder of nobility, the more you get for your prisoner. So there's some economic interest here in capturing English knights, and there's also just personal prestige and glory. Because this is how warfare is viewed at the time. And so the Englishmen on the other side, as you see in this picture, the turning point of the battle is really with the English archers, the English longbowmen. The English longbowman is someone who has been practicing since childhood how to handle the longbow. And over years of training, years of practice, he's gotten exceptionally good at it. The longbow has tremendous range. It outdistances any of the crossbows that any of the French might have backing them up. So the English have a big advantage here, and so they also put themselves behind these pointed wooden spikes called pikes, and the idea of the pikes is to hold off the horse-mounted cavalry, so that if they charge, then and they're crowded enough together, then some of those horses and some of those men are going to be left hanging on those pikes, and it can be very, very effective in breaking up a cavalry charge. Now, the French do begin their charge. It is across a very sodden, muddy, and cold field, and as the French charge, part of the problem they have is that the forest on either side is getting narrower and narrower, and so it's as if they're charging into a funnel. And so on this map, you'll see that the French knights are being pushed closer and closer together. And this map shows two things. It shows the French attack and it shows the French retreat. Because what happens is, as they come within range, there is unleashed upon them a hail of thousands of arrows. And not just random shotgun blasts, but actual aimed shots. Because, like I said earlier, these Englishmen were very, very good archers. They were very good at hitting moving targets at long distances. So these were not just random shots zipping through the air. These were aim shots, each one looking for a French horse or a French knight. And the arrows that they carried had a bewildering variety of different types of tips that were available to them. And there were two that were principally used, according to some sources, at Agincourt. And as you see the different types of arrows used here, the spiky, pointier ones were the ones that were aimed at French knights. These were actually armor-piercing rounds of 14-15. And so it is believed that these armor-piercing arrows probably would not penetrate the breastplate of a French knight, but they could penetrate thinner armor. And so this means that a French knight can be shot into the arm, even with armor on it, be shot through the leg, and obviously that goes a ways in compromising a knight's ability to fight, plus the danger of clipping an artery and causing significant internal bleeding. Also, the visor on the helmet is a weak spot. And so if an arrow should hit that visor, that's a very bad day for the French knight on the receiving end. The other arrowheads that you see here are the broad ones that almost look like a capital letter A, or the Star Trek Starfleet symbol, and those are designed for cutting through muscle and cutting through veins. And so those particular arrowheads are generally aimed at horses, with the goal of possibly wounding severely or dropping a horse. And once these knights are down on the field, and especially as they approach the muddier and soggier parts of the field, their ability to simply get up and walk through the mud knee deep in plate armor is such a serious undertaking that many of them simply don't make it. They become slower, much easier to hit targets, and the lightly armed English longbowmen can actually go ahead and attack with swords and daggers and do considerable damage to the French, who are literally stuck in the mud. The result of the battle was a staggering loss for the French. Estimates as to how many soldiers were present on each side vary considerably. Splitting the differences, it seems that the English were outnumbered at least 2-1, maybe a little less. Most estimates tend to be thereabouts or higher, and but the casualties are fairly, I guess, undisputed, and that is that the English lost between a few hundred to a little over 1,000 men. The French lost up to 6,000, and Henry did continue his march and did make it safely back to Calais. And so this goes down in English history as one of their great underdog upsets against the French, and is also remembered in the Shakespeare play Henry V. This is where we get the Band of Brothers speech that is truly an inspiring speech to read. So anyway, that's the end of the Battle of Agincourt. Be back with more. See you later.